there's a ton of noise out there. So how do you get decision makers to pay attention to your brand? Start a podcast and invite your ideal clients to be guests on your show. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to the B2B Growth Show, a podcast dedicated to helping B2B executives achieve explosive growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. I'm James Carberry.
And I'm Jonathan Green.
Let's get into the show. All right, we are here today at the B2B Marketing Forum in Boston, and I'm here today with Jason Hsiao. He is the Chief Video Officer at Animoto. Jason, how you doing today?
Good. Happy to be here, James.
I'm really excited to chat with you. Jason, we were talking right before we hit record, obviously, about video. You guys are buried in the video space. You live and breathe this stuff every day. And we were talking about just different things that you're seeing your customers see success with, different questions they're having. And I want to start by addressing kind of the why behind video, because I think a lot of the folks listening to this get why video is important, but from someone from your perspective, you're living and breathing this stuff every day. You probably, I would imagine, maybe a prospect's asking the why question. Why do we need to start investing more in video? I don't want to spend a lot of time here because, like I said, I think people get it for the most part. But how do you explain why video is so important today?
Well, I actually think most folks at this point, I mean, there are a bazillion stats out there, but at this point, it's just almost kind of commonly accepted that video is highly effective. And really, it just comes down to one kind of simple kind of, I think kind of fact, which is video is just the most compelling and effective way to communicate. And there's just, study and stat after stat about, when you use video, it just performs that much better. And it's really just because that's how consumers prefer to consume content. So if you're meeting the demands of your audience, and if they want things in video form, then you're going to be doing better. So really, it's most people kind of get the why. And in fact, I think there's never been a bigger disparity between something where they know something is important, but the level of anxiety and challenge they have to get started are kind of like, there's never been kind of like a wider kind of disparity between that. So really, that's kind of like the gap that I've been focused on, is how do we reduce that level of anxiety and increase that level of confidence so it doesn't feel like this big, scary, foreign thing. It's just something that, and it really is something that is probably more familiar to people than they think. It's not this whole new type of marketing that they have to learn. It really is what I've been trying to tell folks is video is not a whole separate type of marketing. It's a way to amplify your existing marketing.
Got it.
And so I think that's really been kind of where people have been resonating with what we've been talking about, is that connective tissue between, I know it's important, and I see everyone else doing it, but how do I just kind of get started?
So what are some specific types of video content, just to give people some tangible examples of how they can jump in and get started, particularly types that, as we were talking offline, you said a lot of people think they need to go and hire a fancy agency, but you really don't. So talk to us about what are some types of video content that people can jump in and get started with without having to go and spend a ton with an agency.
So where a lot of people are in their company is they haven't really started using video yet. They know they need to. They don't have like an extra $100,000 or even $10,000 lying around to go do something. And so they have to but they know video is important. They want to use video. Oftentimes they're trying to figure out how to prove it in their department or to their CEO or whatever. And so they have to figure out where to start. Some of the common kind of, anxieties or challenges that people talk about is like, I'm not creative. I'm not a storyteller. My brand or my service or tool is not this like emotional thing where like I can produce some video that produces, tears and or so where do I get started? And so what I often try to tell people is I kind of invite them to just sit back and think about what already works for you and your company. What message works? What specific pieces of content work? What images or video clips that you already might have on your LinkedIn or Facebook or your webpage, your website? What taglines? What keywords? What are things that already work? And start there. And once you kind of say that, you kind of start putting people in a place of familiarity and comfort. And then we say, well, video can really be applied in all those different ways, or even all the channels that you're already finding success with. So if you have success with social, or with email, or with lead nurture, or with paid search, or whatever, or with your Salesforce, video can be used in all those channels. So the message to a lot of these folks is start with what already works for you, because at the end of the day, you need to make sure you're delivering content that resonates with your audience. And you already have tons of content that resonates. So start there.
Got it.
So specifically, I think a great place I've seen more and more is people basically turning to their content marketing, which is often captured in their blog. And what's awesome about your blog content is you have empirical data, you have quantitative data to see which kind of pieces of content are most popular.
Yeah.
So folks are literally taking their blog posts, and depending on their length, they'll either take the highlights of that blog post, top 5 tips for whatever, and putting that into a video, or if it's a longer piece, kind of creating more of almost like a preview of that, of that piece of content, so they can put that out on social and people can kind of link to that blog. And what's great about that is it's, a lot of it is mostly just text. But you can put some, maybe some stock photo or stock videos behind it. You could put some, a photo of your office behind it, but it doesn't need anything kind of fancy in terms of production value.
So it doesn't need to be the content marketer listening to this. They don't need to be behind the video.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is kind of a great way that a lot of folks can just get started with video really quickly, produce something that is a piece of content that they can have high confidence is going to resonate with their audience, something they can do on their own that doesn't require a lot of, red tape or, buy-in from the CEO, that they can get on the social and start proving that this stuff works.
Yeah.
And then from there, it kind of snowballs. And once you start doing your first few videos, people's confidence just starts to go way up. And the idea is just start kind of, snowballing
from
after
there.
that. Yeah.
And they can use a tool like Animoto to take that blog content and easily turn it into a video that doesn't need to have them in it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So with Animoto, that's what we specialize. Is just anyone can kind of create professional looking videos that can stand out on social media. But you can have text and some logos, and you can take some stock images, put it behind. You don't need anything. You don't need any professional editing experience or professional videography experience.
As far as distribution, Jason, we were talking offline about Facebook and how you've seen a lot of your customers using Facebook to distribute videos. Do you have any thoughts around distribution, best ways to distribute it? Is it just, kind of the traditional, email, social? Like, what are your thoughts on distribution of video?
It's kind of like the Wild West right now. Like, social is really still, it's very powerful now, but it's still kind of this emerging opportunity. So Facebook's probably leading the way in terms of all the ways that you can micro target folks. And I like to say, with everything going on in the world, just remember, with targeting, with great power comes great responsibility. Don't go changing countries' elections. But yeah, it's amazing how precisely you can target folks. And so Facebook and Instagram, by nature of kind of being owned by Facebook, but also LinkedIn. So probably those three are kind of on the cutting edge right now of your ability to target folks. And why that's important is because at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you're putting your content in front of the people who are going to resonate most with it, instead of what we kind of call post and pray, where you just kind of put something out there and hope someone, finds it. So you can get pretty specific with who you want to see the content. And especially if you're starting to spend, money to promote your content, which a lot of companies are, you want to make sure that you're doing it in the most cost-effective way possible.
So I've seen a lot of the videos that I'm seeing in my LinkedIn feed and I guess my Facebook feed as well. I'm noticing that videos that have captions, particularly if there is a person behind the camera talking, maybe it's a whiteboard video, whatever. At least for me personally, I know that I'm drawn to the video that I can read without having to tap the video to play sound.
Yeah.
Are you guys seeing the same?
Yeah, totally. So basically we talk about a handful of things as best practices these days. So I think the meta trend, right, is more and more people are consuming content, especially video content on mobile, right? And most of the time that's a sound off experience. So that's not to say you can't have people in your video. It's always great to have a human being that people feel like they can relate to in your video, but there has to be captions, or if you're not using captions, use, if you don't have people, make sure there's text in your video that's kind of supporting whatever it is that you're showing. So kind of designing it's something like 90% of video content is consumed on mobile, right? So it's really just thinking about what is that viewing experience on mobile. So I think designing for sound off is important. Another one is we talk about using square video instead of landscape, because square takes up 78% more real estate, and just because of that, there's all sorts of kind of stats about how much better square videos perform. We'll probably get to landscape in the next year or two, but that's a little bit more advanced. But square videos are pretty easy to make these days. And the third thing that we talk a lot about is this notion of save the best for first. So it's kind of rewiring our traditional mindset of how we write stuff, is where we kind of build an arc and tell a story and save the best for last. But with online video, it's kind of intuitive, right? It's your viewership starts at 100%, and you can kind of safely assume it's only going to go down from there. So this is not like a movie-going audience that is going to be there in their seats at the end of the movie, and you can save the best for last. You kind of have to start with the best first, whether it's your best image, your best message, your CTA, whatever it is that you feel is most important. And it's kind of safe to assume maybe like by the end of your video, you're only going to have half your audience. So just kind of thinking about think about great recipe videos. What's awesome. They start with kind of like the money shot at the end with like the final cake or whatever, and then they go into how to make it. So that's kind of like the mentality that you need. Save the best for first.
Me being a copywriter, knowing that the subject line of the email matters. In my LinkedIn status updates that I've been writing, I put a lot of attention into the first sentence of that update. So same idea here.
Totally the exact same.
You have to be able to captivate their attention in the beginning so that they hopefully stick around throughout the entire thing. Jason, this has been fantastic. If somebody listening to this wants to stay connected with you, they want to learn more about Animoto, what's the best way for them to go about doing that?
Well, anyone can follow me on Twitter or chat with me on Twitter. I'm at Jason_Hsiao, which is spelled HSIAO. You can email me, jason@animoto.com, where we have just tons of great content on our blog and our social for Animoto. I'm happy to chat with anyone because I just am all about trying to preach video and get people using video.
I love it. Awesome. Thanks a lot, Jason.
Thanks, James.
To ensure that you never miss an episode of the B2B Growth Show, subscribe to the show in iTunes or your favorite podcast player. This guarantees that every episode will get delivered directly to your device.
If you'd like to connect with B2B executives from all over the world, make sure to join our private Facebook community. There are some incredible conversations happening inside this group. To join, visit b2bgrowthshow.com/FB.
Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.